great Canadian housing Ponzi scheme, the illusion of wealth, the $1 million shack. Look at this thing. Really look at it. It's a pile of rotting wood in a Toronto suburb. The roof leaks. The windows are cracked. And somewhere inside, a family of raccoons is probably running a functioning government. By any logical standard, this structure should be bulldozed. But this is Canada. And this heap of decaying lumber just sold for $1.2 million. Welcome to the Canadian dream. For decades, the world has viewed Canada as calm, predictable paradise. Polite people, clean sidewalks, maple syrup, a banking system so stable it could be used as a pillow. But beneath that polite, smiling surface is a monster that is quietly devouring an entire generation. They call it the real estate market. But don't let that dull name trick you. A real market is where goods are traded based on value. What's happening in Vancouver, Toronto, and now across the entire country is not a market. It is a casino. It is a crime scene. And if you follow the money, it begins to resemble something far darker, the largest legal pyramid scheme in human history. Why call it that? Because in a pyramid scheme, early participants get rich only by recruiting new buyers to pay higher and higher prices. The moment the flow of greater fools stops, the entire system collapses. In Canada, those greater fools are the young, the immigrants, and the working class, people who did everything right, except be born 30 years earlier. Today, we are not going to stare at boring spreadsheets or interest rate charts. We're going to cut open the belly of this beast and investigate who's holding the knife, and why you might be next. The decoupling. When math dies. Let's rewind to 1990. Your parents buy a house. Average home price, about $150,000. Average household income, about $50,000. The ratio, 3-to-1. 3 years of income for a roof over your head. The math worked. The world made sense. Fast forward to 2024. Incomes have crawled to roughly $80,000.
Luxury?
But the average home price? Over $800,000. And in the major cities, the starter home is well above $1 million.
Broken.
The ratio today? 10-to-1. Sometimes 15-to-1. What changed? Did houses suddenly turn into luxury items infused with gold dust and unicorn tears? Did Canada run out of trees? Out of land? Out of physics? No. The houses are the same. Worse, actually. Older, creakier, rotting. The only thing that changed was the level of insanity. Economists call this phenomenon the decoupling. The moment asset prices break free from the gravitational pull of real incomes. When a brain surgeon cannot afford a townhouse, but a hobby investor owns 10 condos, that is not economic growth.
Crisis.
That is a tumor growing inside the system. And like every magnificent financial scam, this one is powered by a sugary, addictive lie. Real estate only goes up. It never goes down. This one belief, repeated endlessly, keeps the pyramid standing. The moment doubt creeps in, everything begins to shake. The bottom of the pyramid, artificial scarcity. Now we arrive at the greatest lie of all, supply. The Prime Minister says, we need to build more homes. Economists say, there's a housing shortage. The media repeats, Canada has a supply crisis. It sounds rational. High demand plus limited supply equals higher prices. A simple, comforting explanation. But Canada is the second largest country on Earth. We're not short on land. We're not short on trees. We're not short on space. So why are we acting like we live on a tiny island with no room to expand? Because the scarcity isn't natural. It is manufactured. In every pyramid scheme, you must create urgency. Buy now,
Just a
or
regular
you will never
guy.
afford it. FOMO becomes policy. In Canada, this urgency is created through zoning laws. Huge areas of major cities are locked into single-family-only zones. You can't build
Easy
apartments, you can't build duplexes. You can only build expensive, unattainable boxes for the wealthy. Who benefits from this system? People who already own homes. The upper layers of the pyramid. Who gets crushed by it? Everyone else. Existing homeowners vote against new construction not because they hate condos, but because more supply threatens the value of their precious asset. And that value is their retirement plan, their borrowing power, their golden ticket. In protecting their own property values, they are quietly sacrificing the financial future of their own children. But even this is not the darkest truth, because the real question isn't where the homes are, or even how many we build. The real question is, who is actually buying them? And the answer to that question will make your blood run cold. We're going to expose it. Next, the laundromat and the leverage trap, the domestic predator, the haylock trap. So who is buying all these million-dollar shacks?
But Bob,
you might
isn't
imagine a
the
young
worst.
couple scraping together every dollar they've saved, or maybe a tech genius earning
Where
a
would
fortune.
you hide it?
But the truth is far more ordinary. Most of the people buying these homes are just Bob. Bob, your friendly neighborhood dad. Bob who BBQs on weekends. Bob who smiles at you in the driveway. And Bob who quietly owns 5 properties, each one bought using the same trick.
Too risky.
Meet the mom and pop investor. For decades, Canada pushed the idea that buying a home was the safest path to wealth, but somewhere along the line, housing stopped being a shelter and became a slot machine. The magic trick behind it all? A weapon called the HELOC, the home equity line of credit. Here's how the pyramid expands. Bob buys house A. Thanks to artificial scarcity and relentless speculation, the value jumps on paper. Bob goes to the bank. The bank says, "Congratulations! You made $200,000. Want to borrow it?" Bob doesn't use that money to pay down debt. No. Bob uses that equity to buy House B. House B rises in price. He extracts equity again. He buys House C. And the cycle repeats.
Everyone
This
wins.
isn't investing. This
but
is
you.
debt-fueled gambling. This is leverage dressed up as success. Bob isn't a genius. Bob is a man standing on a mountain of borrowed money, praying the wind never blows the wrong way.
Why doesn't the government
And
stop
here's the
this?
terrifying part. In some years, investors like Bob made up 30% to 40% of all home buyers in Ontario and BC.
Too big
They're not
to
competing
fail.
with you. They're outbidding you using equity from homes they already gained from the system. But Bob is just the local predator. If you want to meet the real monsters, you need to look outside our borders. Snowwashing, the world's dirty piggy bank. Let me ask you something. If you were a corrupt politician, a cartel boss, or a billionaire tax evader, and you needed to hide $10 million in dirty cash, where would you put it? Switzerland? Too strict. Cayman Islands? Too obvious. Crypto? Too volatile. No, you'd bring it to Canada. Welcome to the world of snowwashing,
exit.
the art of turning dirty money into clean, sparkling real estate. For decades, Canada has had some of the weakest transparency laws in the entire G7. In the UK, you must disclose who owns a company. In the US, federal agencies track suspicious transactions. In Canada, you could buy a mansion, a skyscraper, an entire city block using a numbered company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Ontario Limited. And no one is allowed to know who you really are. Not the public, not the
Rates
banks, not even the
rising.
police. It is a perfect black hole. A 2019 report estimated that over
Rates
$46 billion was
up.
laundered through Canadian real estate in a single year. That's nearly 5% of the entire economy of British Columbia. Think about that. Those empty condos downtown aren't empty because nobody wants them. They're empty because they were never meant to be homes. They're safety deposit boxes made of glass, storing offshore wealth and criminal fortunes. The criminals get clean money. The government gets tax revenue. And you get pushed further and further away from the city you grew up in. The enablers. Why no one stops it? By now, you might be shouting at your screen, why doesn't the government stop this? Why don't the banks say no? Why doesn't someone do something? Here's the ugliest truth of all. And they don't stop it because they depend on it. Canada no longer thrives on innovation like the United States. We don't dominate manufacturing. We don't
can
lead
fall.
in technology. Today, the single biggest engine of the Canadian economy is one thing: real estate. Housing,
They're
buying,
crushing us.
selling, refinancing, building now represents a massive share of our national GDP. More than oil, more than manufacturing,
Is it you?
more than most sectors combined. If the government fixed the housing crisis properly, if prices fell back to where normal people could afford homes, the entire economy would implode. Banks would collapse. Pension funds would vaporize. Construction jobs would disappear. The tax base would crater.
No liquidity.
Politicians know this. Banks know this. Developers know this. They have painted themselves into a corner. To keep the economy alive, they must keep the bubble alive. They need Bob to buy house number 4. They need foreign money to keep pouring in. They need the prices to rise, even if it destroys the next generation. But here is the problem. When a system is built on leverage, corruption, and fragile debt, You don't need a bomb to blow it up. You just need one small change. And that change has already begun. Interest rates are rising. The foundation is trembling. The music is stopping.
The bill is due.